This was not Jason Cole's first rodeo. He had eaten at Opal and Ivory before and enjoyed every time he spent there. The restaurant was one of the hot spots for the world's most powerful men and women. They dined there whenever they wanted to exchange whispers because they knew that the waitstaff understood that repeating anything they heard from their mouths could just cost their lives. The restaurant wasn't the most exclusive, but it was off-limits to people who were not approved. However, the same restaurant had a different atmosphere that night, one that Jason did not understand. Still, he went in. He had a very important meeting and knew he could not afford to joke around about this, so he found a corner table and sat down. Immediately, one of the waitstaff brought a glass of bourbon to him, and he swirled it around in his hands while his eyes darted across the room, searching. He was asked what he would love to eat, but Jason did not come for food. He came for answers. Over the last few weeks, he had been digging his hand into something he should not have, and he had asked the type of questions the powerful men did not want anyone to ask. Jason did not care, though. He realized that he was no longer just an actor. He was now a man burning with curiosity. After sitting at the table for what felt like an eternity, the restaurant owner knew that the young man had come for some shady reasons. So, with quick strides, he approached him. The restaurant owner, Victor Langston, was tall, smartly dressed, and had a permanent smirk. His aura told of the many victories he had won, and immediately Jason knew that this man could get away with anything. "Sir, you need to leave the premises," Victor spoke, his voice calm and his tone even. Jason went out to look for answers and knew that trouble would follow. Leaning back, unfazed, he replied, "I just got here, though." Victor did not blink or frown. Instead, he looked intently at Jason and said, "And now you are leaving." As they stood in this looking competition, a waiter dropped a folded napkin on Jason's plate. Victor, who saw the act being done, still did not move or blink. Sighing, Jason took the paper and saw a handwritten note. "You are getting too close. Stop." Jason looked up in annoyance. He knew when he was being warned, and he never liked it. In his anger, his eyes moved around, and he noticed that other eyes were on him. Some were faces that he could recognize: CEOs, politicians, and even tech moguls. For the others, he did not know who they were, but their presence could bring shivers down anyone's spine. Jason had always known that this was not just a restaurant. It was just a front for something much bigger, and he would prove it. Finally, he stood up. His initial plan was to just walk away and not cause a scene, but then he saw something that changed everything. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a man in a very dark suit who handed a thick envelope to a senator who looked extremely nervous. As the senator opened the envelope, Jason could see some things inside: photos, documents, and evidence of something dark. At that point, he knew he wasn't paranoid. He was extremely right in his suspicions, which made his blood run cold. Victor must have noticed the change in the man's countenance, and he could tell he had probably seen something he was not meant to see. He stepped toward Jason and whispered, "If you leave now, I will pretend like this never happened." Jason closed his eyes and exhaled sharply, his heart pounding loudly. He had two options: turn around and walk away as if nothing happened or expose them. As he sat there, he could not help but wonder what his sister would have him do. The last place the witness said they saw her was at this restaurant. She had met with a top politician and never came out alive. Jason had always wondered what could have happened to her here. He researched and realized something wasn't adding up about this restaurant. The police were too scared to get themselves deeply involved, and that was enough to suggest something sinister was going on. He was determined to unravel the problem, and now that he was here, he wouldn't give up. Smiling, Jason made his choice. Immediately, he grabbed a glass from the table and smashed it on the floor. Instead of an uproar, the restaurant went mute, dead silent. It wasn't the reaction Jason wanted, but he was ready to take full advantage of it. Jason shouted at the top, "This is not just a restaurant. It's a goddamn operation." As the gasps and murmurs spread through the room, he saw a flicker of fear in Victor's eyes and saw two men in suits quickly approaching him. They were either security or worse. Jason was not dumped. He knew that he had just a few seconds before those men would drag him out, so before he left, he turned to the guests and said, You all sit here like you are some sort of gods deciding who lives or doesn't, and you think no one will ever find out. Your end is near." Victor did not wait another second. He signaled to the men to throw Jason out, and the men immediately held him in a firm grip. Irrespective of how Jason thrashed against them, the two men were more powerful than he was, and they successfully threw him out, but his voice was still ringing through the lavish dining room. "You are all going to burn for this," he screamed as the doors swung open, and he was tossed to the street like garbage. Immediately, Jason sat up, trying to catch his breath, when the restaurant's heavy doors slammed shut. As he stood up from the ground, he straightened his jacket and began walking off into the night, his heart racing. He had finally made his first move. Now he just had to be strong enough to survive what was coming next. However, he was in for a huge shock because someone had recorded everything. The next morning, when Jason woke up, he saw that his face was everywhere. Though the video had leaked and was shaky and grainy, it had a very clear message. People could hear him shouting, "This is not just a restaurant, it's a goddamn operation." The video had gotten millions of views in just a matter of hours. Just like that, the speculation began. Many believed that he was drunk. Others said he had stumbled into something very real. As the speculations continued, people watched as the most cryptic tweet went to the online space. Donald J. Trump, known for his unpredictable online presence, posted, "A bad meal can ruin your night. A bad secret can ruin your life." As soon as his tweet went live, the internet exploded. There were mixed emotions everywhere. At that point, every news outlet wanted to cover the story. Many said Jason was a washed-up actor who wanted attention, but others believed powerful figures were silencing him. People were still discussing it when it finally happened. The video began to disappear. All the links went dead. Almost every Twitter account that posted about it was suspended, and every news outlet that spoke about it began retracting their articles. It became very obvious that someone was trying so hard to erase it. Thankfully, the internet is a place that never forgets. People had already saved the footage, and as many disappeared, more copies were being brought to light again. This time, they were posted on extremely encrypted message boards, the kind of places where information could never vanish. As the world went into an uproar, Jason went into hiding. He knew that he had struck a nerve, but he still did not know the whole truth. At least not yet. For so many years, Jason had played the role of a hero on television, but nothing properly prepared him for the reality he was living in. After the video went viral, his phone did not stop buzzing. Everyone wanted to hear him explain what happened. Reporters, fans, and even conspiracy theorists all wanted to hear from him. But Jason had not gotten the full picture of what he had stumbled into, so he ignored every one of them. As the messages kept coming in, he was slowly becoming upset, and just as he was about to turn off his phone, a message that caught his attention popped in. It was from an anonymous number and had 2 sentences. "I have all the proof you need. Meet me by 3 a.m. at Warehouse 17. Jason did not hesitate. He did not even think twice about it. It could be a trap, but he was so desperate to know what had happened to his sister that he ignored all the negative feelings and went to Warehouse 17. When he arrived at the location, he first noticed the entire environment was deadly quiet. He could not see a single person in sight, so he walked inside a bit, till finally he saw a hooded figure waiting for him. The more he approached this figure, the more her features became defined, and he could see that she was a woman. When he was a few inches away from her, the woman pulled back her hood, and Jason could see that her eyes were filled with fear. "Who are you?" he asked plainly. "You don't need to know that. Just call me Ren." Her voice was shaky. It almost felt like she did not want to do what she was about to, but somehow, she still did. Stretching forth her hand, she handed a flash drive to Jason. "What am I holding?" Jason asked her. "Proof. That's all the evidence you need to show the world that Opal and Ivory is not just a restaurant, but a meeting place for some of the most powerful people in the world. Those people are not just eating meals, they are discussing human experiments." Immediately she mentioned human experiments. A chill ran down Jason's spine. Could it be possible that his sister was also used as an experiment? Ren did not stop talking. They call themselves the Dominion and are extremely dangerous, she added. Jason did not need to be told twice. He already knew that these people were cruel. What else do you know about them? Jason asked, curious to hear more. I don't know much. However, I know that they fund underground research off the book, which does not follow the laws we know. What exactly are they researching about? Jason asked with a clenched fist. The image of his sister being used as a human experiment made his stomach crawl. Something sinister. Something that should normally not even exist, Ren said in hesitation. The scary part now is that you know too much, and just as they are coming for me, they will also come for you. Before Jason could ask her more questions, she ran away. Jason went back home all the while contemplating what he could do. These men were very powerful, and he knew they would come for him. But maybe, if the press knew that his life was in danger, it could buy him more time. Jason did not think further, and called Ben Hayward, a journalist known for always taking on the elite. He needed to do two things: make sure that he had the security of the press and dig into the Dominion. He made his intentions known to Ben and was excited to help him. However, Ben never made it the night they had agreed to meet. Jason returned that day feeling discouraged, but he guessed something urgent had probably come up. The next morning he heard the shocking news that Ben was murdered in a hit and run. Jason watched the news in disbelief, and deep down, he knew this was not just an accident. It was a warning. He was determined to not just sit around till they came for him, but he had no idea what he could do. Any moment from now he could end up like Ben and never figure out what happened to his sister. The more he thought about it, the more fear crippled him. However, amid that fear, he remembered having a flash drive containing all the needed evidence. So he rushed to his laptop, slotted it in the flash drive, and opened its contents. Right there, he saw a hacked email dump with thousands of messages. Most of the messages looked like casual, routine business correspondence, but then he found one completely different thread. It was an email thread between Victor Langston and a secret biotech firm with the subject line Project Genesis. Jason read through the entire email till he found one that caught his eye. So far, the trials are progressing way faster than we expected. For Subject X, she showed signs of enhanced cognitive function within 48 hours. Right now, all I need is the approval from the Dominion for me to proceed to Phase 3. The more Jason read, the more confused he became. What the actual hell were these people doing? And then he found another. You need to be extremely careful. We cannot afford another containment breach, so if anyone breathes a word of this, just eliminate them. Jason kept reading, and every message he saw only made his blood cold. The Dominion was not funding any sort of medical research. They were actively experimenting on people. They were some sort of power structure, and now he had made himself their public enemy number one. Jason went to his kitchen. He needed a very cold drink to process what he had just seen. As he got to his fridge with shaking limbs, he noticed that he had no drinks to help him calm his nerves. Shaking, he stepped out to get something strong. The cold evening air hit him hard as he stepped out, but it did little to help him calm down. He rushed to the store, got a bottle of wine, and returned to his apartment to consume the entire bottle. As he returned to his apartment, he noticed the aura surrounding his home had changed. However, again, it could just be his paranoid mind playing a cruel trick on him, so he stepped inside. As soon as he did that, he knew that something was wrong. His home was in disarray. The entire place had been thrashed, but they left him a note in a place he would find. The note read, "You need to disappear, or else this will get much worse for you." Jason looked around, and his first thought was his laptop. He rushed to where it was, but they had already destroyed it. Thankfully, he had carried the flash drive, which he knew they needed. He could not stay in his home anymore, so he packed a few clothes into his backpack and left. Jason knew exactly where he was going. He had seen a name buried in almost all the emails on the flash drive: Dr. Elias Voss. From what he read, Dr. Elias was the only one who stopped working for them, but they saw no need to get rid of him. However, they had his address, which they shared in the email, and now Jason had the same address. To everyone else, Dr. Elias had vanished, but the people at the Dominion knew he was alive and well. Jason traced the address he had to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The man was the only one living there, and when Jason finally saw him, it seemed like he had not slept for years. "Who are you?" Voss asked as he opened his door and saw a strange man in his front yard. "My name is Jason, and I need to talk to you." "I'm sorry, but I am not in the mood to talk," Dr. Elias said. He was about to shut the door when Jason blocked it with his leg and lifted up the flash drive. "You might want to change your mind about that." Voss looked around like he had seen a ghost and pushed Jason into the house. "You were not supposed to find this." "But I did, and now I want to know everything," Jason said with clenched fists. "Fine. Opal and Ivory is a front for a genetic engineering project. They don't just experiment on people, they edit them." "What do you mean?" Voss hesitated, but then spoke out. "Well, they want to reshape the human DNA. The goal is to control intelligence, disease resistance, and even lifespan. Ultimately, they want to create a superior ruling class." "What?" Jason was too stunned to speak, but Voss wasn't done. "They are only just beginning. They haven't even started." Jason could not stand and had to find support on a chair. These people were controlling the human race at a genetic level. They wanted to create a new species, a dominion of their creation. As Jason tried to understand this, his phone vibrated with several alert messages and went black. However, just before it did, a text flashed through his phone. "You don't exist anymore." His heart pounded as he looked at Voss and asked, "How do we stop them?" Voss looked at him with pity and replied, "You can't." Jason looked at Voss and concluded that enough was enough. If the Dominion wanted to erase him from the earth, he would ensure he gave them a solid reason to do so. "Look, you have to help me," he told Voss. "I mean, look at it, because of these people you are stuck here and can't leave. If you help me and we eliminate them, you will be free to live your life again." Voss looked at him like he had gone mad. "Do you even know the people you want to fight? They won't hesitate to get rid of you." "I know, but if we can prevent them from hurting another person, we have won the war. Come on, what do you say?" Voss remained mute for a while, weighing his options. Then Jason saw a flicker of anger in his eyes and knew he had won him over. "Fine. What do we do next?" Jason smiled, and together they got to work. They devised a plan, and Dr. Voss gave him stolen access codes and sent him on his way. When Jason got to town, he changed his attire and slipped into the underground research lab hidden beneath Opal and Ivory. At first, he perceived the stench of sterile chemicals. Then he saw the dimly lit corridors, and as he moved further inside, he heard the quiet hum of machinery. Then he saw them. Stacked in long rows of glass chambers were living humans. Some of them were unconscious, while others were wide awake, but their eyes held no emotions. Their bodies were hooked to tubes that pumped unknown substances right into their veins. Jason looked through the glass containers, hoping to see his sister, but he didn't. A wave of disappointment hit him immediately, but he quickly remembered that he was on a mission and had to finish it before they would discover that he was there. Jason searched around the room until he found a control panel. Using the steps Voss had taught him, he successfully hacked into it. As soon as he was inside, a classified directory popped up. Jason took a deep breath and began to read. The project had all its evil plans. The Dominion had altered all the common vaccines and medications. They altered them by adding a sterility compound with an irreversible genetic modification to control world population growth. Jason was already fuming at how evil their actions were, and then he found a video recording of the Dominion's inner circle. They all sat at a private dinner table in Opal and Ivory. They spoke to an extent about how well their plan of deciding who existed was going. One of them, a senator, said, "By the time we are done, the weak will fade away, and the strong will prosper." As Jason was still watching the videos, an alarm blared. He did not know if it was a routine sound, but he knew it didn't mean well to him. Immediately, he copied all the data he could and ran for his life. As he ran, he could hear the gunfire echoing behind him. He managed to escape unscathed, and now he had the truth. There was no time to waste. Jason leaked everything he had, documents, videos, reports, and everything else he had on the Dominion's secret agenda. The information spread like wildfire, and social media exploded. Just as it came speedily, every information went away from the media. Journalists no longer spoke about it, and every post was deleted. A few weeks later, the government gave a statement stating that Jason Cole was just a drunk man who had nothing better to do than to spread lies. Just like that, the whole world bought the lies, and Jason watched in horror as the world decided to forget. As he sat on his sofa, contemplating how the people who had murdered his sister got away with the crime, he remembered Trump's tweet. "A bad meal can ruin your night. A bad secret can ruin your life." Finally, it made sense. Trump was not warning him. He was trying to warn the world, but no one listened. And Jason could only wonder if any harm had come to the journalists and influencers who spoke about the scandal that he knew about. Do you believe things would have turned out differently if people had taken Donald Trump's warning seriously? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also watch the other videos on your screen. See you in the next one.